Hello, welcome to this Crypto Professor update video on CRO token or Crypto.com token. We've had quite a considerable bounce in the price of CRO in the last 24 hours. A couple of weeks ago, I provided some analysis on my YouTube channel regarding the CRO token, and I said the price was likely to continue to decline for the foreseeable future. I even provided a specific price target, which turned out to be quite accurate. If you don't remember, here's a refresher. Slightly lower, we can see that the ultimate price is kind of in the middle of the $0.05 region, which we should correct to over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we see that the price did actually bounce from the mid 0.05 region and actually started to climb immediately after that. A couple of reasons for this. First and foremost, the CEO of Crypto.com came out and addressed the negativity and the fear, uncertainty and doubt of the market surrounding the CRO token in the last 48 hours. That has put a lot of people's minds at ease. We've also seen the market in general turn extremely bullish, with Bitcoin starting to climb and threaten the $19,000 region, which is an all-time high. Most cryptocurrencies are responding very positively to this, and we're starting to see a resurgence in interest in cryptos in general. I also wanted to provide a technical analysis reason for the bounce at that particular price, and this is a market capitalization graph of the CRO token. You can see that it reached a peak of 3.5 billion back in September, and it's currently around about 1.7 billion, having reached a low of 1.38 billion. This goes all the way back to January 2019, when CRO wasn't really worth much at all, $30 million, etc. And we've seen a huge 100 times increase on the market capitalization, which accounted for that price increase dramatically over the course of 2020. There's an interesting ratio between the maximum peak of the market cap and the price at which we descended to recently. If you subtract the 53538 and look at the difference in percentages, you will see that they're roughly approximately 60% away from each other. Now, this is quite a statistically significant number in the world of financial trading. When we're looking at a chart, a Fibonacci chart, we actually look for the Fib retracement to do 61% of the price. So say, for example, the chart peaked up here and then we started selling off. We look for the 61.8% retracement. So in effect, what we have here is a 61% retracement in the market capitalization, which could explain why the bounce has happened here. That's a technical reason for the bounce to happen. That's another feather in the cap, basically, for the idea that CRO has bottomed for the long term. But let's actually look at the price data and the actual charts themselves. So we can see here the price smacked right into my Fib target, this blue line here, 0.0578. That happened on the 17th. And then since then, we've been kind of oscillating between bulls and bears. There's a few days of doji there where we didn't really have any particular price sentiment. And then suddenly out of nowhere, we had this bullish engulfing, which encapsulated the previous week or so, actually all the way to the 7th, of bearish sentiment. And then now we're kind of oscillating up here, deciding whether to continue on higher or whether to come back and retrace our steps back down to this liquidity zone here, which is the long-term liquidity zone for CRO token. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit later and find out whether I think this is going to continue higher or retrace back down for a bigger movement over the long term. But let's look at some other technical analysis data to see whether we can determine what's likely to happen. Okay, so this is a 1 hour chart of the CRO token, and we can see here clearly we've crossed the 50-day and the 200-day EMAs very nicely. This is what's known as the golden cross, and it's a general indicator, one of the best statistically significant indicators for a price to start ascending rapidly. We broke through this resistance line, and we're now on a 1 hour chart at least determining to continue that line. We've got both the EMAs acting as support, and that's looking quite nice and bullish. Let's look at a little bit larger time frame. So on a day chart, we have dropped down, we're now up here, and we've got quite a way to go before we start to threaten any of the EMAs. So let's look at a 4 hour to see whether we can determine. Okay, on a 4 hour chart, things are a little bit different. We have cleared nicely the 50-day EMA, but we are only halfway to the 200. So if I examine what the 100 looks like, just to see whether we're striking it. Okay, great, fantastic. So we've broken through the 100-day EMA. We're now above it and looking as it as support as opposed to resistance that it was previously. Once these cross, we will then have a 4 hour chart with bullish sentiment on a larger time frame, and obviously we won't see anything really significant until we cross the 200-day, but that won't happen probably for about another couple of weeks. So we're looking at around about the end of December before we actually have any really serious bullish momentum, but then that will increase the price into the double-digit cent region when that happens. So we're looking out for that. All we're seeing at the moment is kind of signs that the bullish sentiment is back for CRO. And the longer time we see these develop, the more likely we are to have development in the future. Looking at the RSI on a 4 hour chart, so we have topped. We are now overbought on a 4 hour, which is why I suggest we're probably going to retrace our steps a little bit and have a consolidation of the price around the high $0.07 region. This liquidity zone is probably going to be quite important, acting as support. And as I say, we are above both the 100-day and the 50-day EMAs, which are also acting as support. So there's 3 reasons there why this can correct without really doing much damage to the bullishness of the price. On the day chart, we're kind of ambiguous. We've got 45, we're no longer oversold. We're now looking more comfortable, and we do have quite a lot of maneuverability to the upside. We have room to maneuver to get all the way to 9 cents even if this bullish phase continues. We're nowhere near overbought on the day chart in terms of RSI. We're a lot healthier than we were previously on my previous analysis of these metrics, but once again, a long way to go before we are very bullish on this time frame, the day chart. Let's look at the MACD. On a day chart, we've crossed over healthily, and we're now continuing to fan out. There's a lot of bullish volume going into the market, so we should see that transpire after a consolidation period into more bullish sentiment over the course of the next couple of days. On a 4 hour, we are very, very nicely spaced out. We've started to see a little bit of a tail off on the volume for the bullish sentiment, but that just might be a daytime thing. Obviously, I'm recording this at 2:30 London time, and that's typically speaking quite a quiet trading time generally, unless you're based in Asia. So the US markets are relatively quiet this time, as are the European markets. So it may just be the case that, well, we've actually reconsidered that now. We might see a little bit of a tail off. That's just an artifact of the time that this video is recorded. As I say, I expect this to continue, this bullish sentiment, but we might have a little bit of a recap of these earlier prices. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 24, 48, 36 hours, we start to threaten the 8 cent region, or even the 8.5 cent region, based on this bullish momentum that we brought up here. This is a new technical analysis tool that I've been using recently. It's the ADX. It's a trend indicator. It tells you how strong a trend is, either bullish or bearish. And what we can see here is that the bearish trend that we've established all the way through the last 2 months has actually reached its minimal strength of around 25. That is actually the level at which you can define a trend using ADX. That is the minimal benchmark for a trend. You'll see that during its peak, it was around about 75. That is classified as a very strong trend. And obviously, a lot of people have felt the strength of this trend for quite some periods of time now. We are starting to see the end of the bearish trend and the start of a new trend. So hopefully, if we do see this momentum kick in, we should start to see this trend start to escalate once again, but it will be in the opposite direction. It will be a bullish trend as opposed to a bearish trend. Right now, both are kind of neck and neck. We've got the bearish trend at 25. The bullish hasn't really been established yet, especially on this time frame. If we look at a day chart, we're starting to see on a day chart it's much more powerful. It's at 52, which is a very strong trend. We reached a peak of around about 70 on this, and if you look through history, you'll see the last time we had this bullish sentiment all the way through from March until September, it reached around about 80. Now that is an incredibly strong trend there. Okay, so we had the green line over the red line there, so that's a bullish indication, and obviously the red line over the green line here, which is bearish. Notice these are slightly coming towards each other, so they should cross, giving us back our bullish trend. Let's look at BTC now. We noticed that it came all the way down to my aforementioned mid 300s in the previous video that I mentioned. We smacked into 357 Satoshi before bouncing off considerably, and since then we have done exactly the same as what we've done with the US dollar, had a nice recapitulation of bullish sentiment, and that's a bit surprising considering how bullish Bitcoin is at the moment. If you've been keeping an eye on the price, it's currently around about the $19,000 region and threatening an all-time high. So that's incredibly good for a token that has been selling off as much as it has against Bitcoin over the past few months. Taking a little bit of a longer term and also looking at the ADX, we can see once again we had that descending trend that's slightly more positive for CRO against Bitcoin at 37. However, we have crossed over, which is fantastic. We've got our bullish trend back on a 4-hour chart, so reasonably powerful, on Bitcoin against CRO. Notice it's been bearish for a very long time, going all the way back days, even weeks, until we had this crossover back here. Okay, so the ADX is saying that we're tapering off. However, because Bitcoin is so bullish, this chart is probably going to be quite messy over the course of the next couple of weeks, just because if Bitcoin does break 20,000, then I fully expect it to continue on higher as people enter the market through fear of missing out, because they want to own a Bitcoin at a reasonable price, and everyone will start talking about it going to 6 figures within a very short time frame. So I expect this to be a little bit more messy over the course, but I do think the bottom is in for CRO against Bitcoin, 357 Satoshi. I doubt we'll get much lower than that over the course of the next couple of weeks, depending on whether we see this bullish momentum continue. Let's look at a day chart now for the ADX. Okay, so we are extremely high on that bearish trend, and that's why people have been complaining about the CRO token against Bitcoin. But notice we are starting to draw together these two lines, and we should theoretically start to see a bullish resurgence in Bitcoin when these two get closer together. But as for now, it's a weak trend on a day chart, which you would expect because it's only been 24 hours since it started. But on smaller time frames, such as an hour, we have started very positively. We're at 37 and we've already crossed over. So on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, we've crossed, looking good. We've got to wait and see whether this continues on the day chart and turns into something to really get us excited about, with the potential movement up towards 700 Satoshi for CRO against Bitcoin over the course of the next few months. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave comments. Please ask questions if you have any in the comments, and I will endeavour to answer them. And if you have any suggestions for what you'd like me to analyse next, or any particular projects you're keen on, please mention those in the comments and I will get to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, happy trading. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to get $25 of CRO completely for free, please sign up to Crypto.com using our referral link in the description on this video. The Crypto Professor likes feedback. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it. If you'd like more of the same, please don't forget to subscribe. Or if you have questions, please post them in the comments and I'll endeavour to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.